All right, as they're in Somerville at McCallum High School to conclude the House of Representatives. What you have here is a chart from Mother Jones, a liberal organization, that is put together to demonstrate gerrymandering in this country, and definitely to demonstrate gerrymandering to benefit Republicans. You don't have all the states here, so it's worth wondering if the other states are gerrymandered the other way, or if they don't seem to be gerrymandered at all, so they're not that interesting to put up. Now, you would assume the first thing we should do when trying to figure out if something is gerrymandered is just go look at the state map. If you look at the state map and it looks strange, districts look long and skinny and oddly shaped in a suspicious way, that's your first tip-off. But if a state legislature wanted to make districts that matched where communities live, communities don't live in perfect boxes and perfect shapes. They might stretch out that way. So it's hard to know for certain looking at a map that gerrymandering's been happening. But a funny looking map is a good clue. So what we have here is, let's look at the number of votes. People who went out and voted, and they voted Republican and they voted Democrat. And then compare it to the breakdown of who was elected from that state to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. And if there's a big discrepancy, then we know, or if there's a lot of disproportionate representation, then we know something's off. And we can start to deduce that maybe it was deliberate. So what you have here is, on the left, it says for every vote it took to elect a Republican House member in these states, it would have taken this many votes from Democrats to elect a House member. So the voting power of Republicans in most of these states, not Maryland, but Illinois and up, or no, I'm sorry, Michigan and up, the voting power of a Republican voting in those states is greater than the voting power of a Democrat in those states, simply because of, we could assume, the way the lines were drawn. So let's look at North Carolina. That's the most egregious example here. It looks like it would take over 3 Democrats to vote for every 1 Republican in order to elect a Democratic House member. And then Illinois and Maryland demonstrate the gerrymandering the other way. So what's neat about this chart is it's a different way to show that gerrymandering might be happening. It's a way to just look at the numbers and not the map and say that there is disproportionate representation. Because we could see a wonky looking map and maybe communities are organized in such a way that it still reflects, it still provides proportional representation. So to conclude, the question was, how is the House of Representatives the more representative chamber? And we saw that constitutionally, representatives serve shorter terms. Also, their terms are every 2 years. They're not staggered like the Senate. So we really have a tight leash on our individual representative. And then we have a tight leash as a country on the whole chamber. Because in one election, in theory, we could all go vote all the representatives out and put new ones in there. We give them powers to reflect their status, maybe the lower chamber, so to speak. Okay, so I think I left off with this being the lower chamber. So it has important powers like the power to initiate taxation, but it won't have the really sort of elite power of actually conducting the trial for someone being impeached or convicting someone. So yeah, the House of Representatives, it would be considered the lower chamber. It's closer to the people, makes it lower, but it might not have some of those more awesome national powers that the Senate has. So the question was, how is the chamber more representative? And we can say constitutionally it's definitely more representative. It's based on population, direct elections. We might also point to the fact that the qualifications to be a representative are less elite because you can be younger, you don't have to be a citizen quite as long. But what we explored today with looking at the single-member district system is that that is what would make it representative. That every person in this country is represented by a person in Congress. Like they know the name of the representative who serves them. So when you hear write your congressman, you have one. So that connection makes it representative. The dilemma, though, is in having a single-member district system, we inevitably face the trouble of how to draw those districts. And if we don't draw those districts well, then what we end up with is the opposite of what we wanted. We end up with disproportionate representation, not actually being so representative of the actual population's will. All right, so that was the House of Representatives. I have links below, and as current events pop up, I'll add those in and change those out. All right, thanks.